advertise this as one of the most life-changing works in our lineup, and it really is. It is a work that presents us with what philosophy is meant to be, which is an art of living. It is the way to a healthy soul. That's always been the vision. And Stoicism leads us practically. It gives us spiritual exercises in order to traverse this way of philosophical health. The goal for Stoicism is, or one way to describe the goal is ataraxia, which is to achieve a condition of mind or soul that is undisturbed. And there are various practices that Stoics present in order to reach that state of serenity or tranquility. There's the philosophical journaling that we see here in the Meditations itself. These were, the Greek title we really have is ta eis heauton, things to himself. That is, these are really, whenever we hear that exhortation, that hortatory tone, he's preaching to himself. These really were meant as a way for Marcus Aurelius to deal with his own deficiency when it comes to being tranquil. He was known to have a temper, so he knew to deal with that. He had obligations and the responsibilities of the imperial office. So, and again, this is, of course, the rare example of a philosopher king. So he's showing us what philosophy and power might be able to do with each other. So you have philosophical journaling, a notebook of meditations that he's writing down in order to go back to as a cognitive exercise, right? To remind himself, this is the way I need to look at things to gain peace of mind. Exercises we see in here, it's the first thing in book 2 is the premeditatio malorum, that is a premeditation on the evils that you expect to confront, to visualize adversity and therefore to not be caught off guard when the things that happen in our everyday, things that we get up out of bed and we're ready to go, and everything comes at us, sometimes good, but often they knock us off course. And if we would visualize the fact that there's going to be people that are malicious, and this goes very well for me, and thinking about how to deal with driving in the Boston area, right? That you've got to expect that there will be people who aren't acting according to the highest in their souls, and therefore tempting us to not act according to the highest in our souls, right? So it's very practical. There's also the Stoic concept that gets, by modern Stoics, has been termed the dichotomy of control, and you see that in various places here. So this is from Epictetus especially. There are things that are in our control, that is what affects our character, that is our considered opinions, our chosen values, our judgments, and our decisions to act. These things are what actually affect our character. And then, on the other hand, are what we have been calling the external goods. But Stoics wouldn't call these things goods. That is wealth, power, pleasure. They don't even call those goods. They may be good for us or may not be, depending on circumstances. And those things are completely in the power of chance, fortune. When we come across a difficult situation, we have to ask ourselves, can this, and this is what the Stoic would have us do over and over again, is to visualize it beforehand and then try to live it out in the situation. A difficulty, something that is blocking my, and the virtuous goal is, of course, according to the Stoics, to live according to reason in a way that contributes to the good of the cosmopolis, that is the universal whole, humanity conceived as part of this. This is the Stoic cosmology, that the whole universe is one living organism, literally for them, equivalent to God or nature. When he hears that in Spinoza, that's really a Stoic. Nature's God. This is a Stoic kind of notion. That is, the whole universe is one living organism logos, or the word, or rationality, that's the highest in this organism. And we should think of ourselves as part of this whole. And if we think of the whole, and that whole being part of an infinite void and within an infinite duration, and this universe comes to be and passes away in a great fire, ekpyrosis. If we take a step back and look at it, then our problems becomes more manageable. They're put into a context. And we're also able to recognize that our losses in our personal life, maybe we should see, according to the Stoic, these losses as part of the necessity of the organism to maintain its own equilibrium. That's the vision. We can have disagreements. I mean, there's, in the introduction I mentioned about anger, whether it's intrinsically evil or not. Suicide is something the Stoics countenance, and we know this from Cato the Younger, right? And the other big point really is that the soul for the Stoics is not immortal. Now, I think Marcus Aurelius himself, he questions some of these things. He puts before sometimes the God or atoms thing that is the Stoic Cosmology right, or it's the Epicurean atomistic view, right? He's a little agnostic about the metaphysical context, and therefore is very Platonic in that sense, new academic, but he's also being very humble, right? He says, in a way, it just doesn't matter. What he does know is that his character, that he needs to have the goodness of his soul and the goodness of his actions be his concern, not whatever is in the world that he can't affect. So when we have our goal to be serving the good of the cosmopolis, and we hit a wall, or we hit an obstacle, something that causes us reversal in terms of our private good, he would like us to be stoic about it. That is, he would like us to see that there is one harmonious rhythm, and we just need to attune ourselves to that. So that's the vision. I think it's very powerful. One need not agree with all of it, but boy, these spiritual exercises I think are very, very useful. About prudence, this is one of the more difficult questions about Marcus Aurelius. I noted his elevation of his son Commodus, portrayed in Gladiator, but a lot of those details aren't exactly correct. But that the guy was crazy or wasn't a good dude, that's correct. That he made Commodus a co-Augustus, breaking the principle of the previous four of the good emperors, and therefore ending that run. That was a major mistake of what we would call prudence, right? So the question is, what is prudence? Phronesis. It's supposed to be, according to Aristotle, right? The ability to know what's good and bad for us, our character, the state of our souls. Again, the point of philosophy is to become a better human. Prudence is that intellectual virtue that allows us to know which actions lead to our becoming better humans. Okay, Marcus, I think, had that in some personal sense. Aristotle talks about different kinds of prudence: domestic, political, royal, military. I don't know how this maps onto it, but can one see that Marcus, I think of him as an admirable person. And yet he had this major failure of what? Royal or political prudence, huge, catastrophic mistake, and making his son co-Augustus. How do these types of wisdom relate?